Alright, welcome back to my channel. Today we will continue to unravel the back-end web development as we focus this time around on web servers like Nginx and web server gateway interfaces, WSGI, such as Gunicorn. We will also be choosing the best web hosting option for our awesome website. So, without much ado, let's dive in. First of all, what is a web server? It is both the software and hardware that delivers the web content to our clients. And as we've mentioned in our previous videos, how the web works, a user types in a URL into the browser. The browser then sends that request to this web server. The web server's job is to process that request and then send back the response together with any resource that is needed, be it the HTML file, CSS file, JavaScript files, images, you name it. When it gets back, the browser will be able to interpret it and display that web page. All of that happens in a split second. And that's only because our web server is working hard behind the scenes to get all of this done. So you have an idea what a web server is, but there are many different types of web servers. Imagine when the internet just became existent. We had an Apache HTTP server, which is one of the most popular web servers. It's highly configurable and so on. But again, that was a long time ago in the 90s. Also, we have Microsoft Internet Information Services web server, which came about around when Windows NT was created. So obviously, along with Microsoft ecosystem, it is primarily used on Windows servers. So that's the primary limitation on that. But that's not all. We also have servers like LightTPD. It is very useful for low traffic websites, but it serves only static content. The resource usage is low, but ease of use is okay, it's flexible, it's got its security, but the main part is you have to serve only static content. Now we come into the mother load. The one that we actually need to focus on today is Nginx, which is a versatile web server. It's got everything that Apache web server got, but it's got higher performance. It's better speed and efficiency. Just like Apache, it can also act as a proxy, in particular a reverse proxy, which will help us distribute traffic across multiple servers. It could also have the load balancing feature where it will be able to point traffic to the least, or should I say, the least busiest server to improve the performance of our website. Also, to make our website run faster, it has caching, which will be able to store the static contents, the content that doesn't change, like our HTML, which is static, any CSS and JavaScript files that are not changing. That helps us to reduce the load and also improve response time. But in between this Nginx web server and our actual application, we have a bridge. This bridge is known as the Web Server Gateway Interface, WSGI. What does a bridge do? Well, the specification just defines how the web servers and the web applications communicate. So for instance, Nginx will receive a request. It's going to forward it to the WSGI server. That WSGI server now processes the request using our maybe Python or whichever server logic programming language we're using, and generates a response. That response is now sent back to our web server, for instance, Nginx, and then it's then sent back to our client. Again, all of this happening at breakneck speed. So, what is Gunicorn? Well, Gunicorn is simply a powerful WSGI server. It's very simple to use, along with most of the things that you see in Python. It efficiently handles multiple requests concurrently. And the big thing we always talk about is scalability. Gunicorn can easily be scaled to handle increased traffic, and also the configuration and deployment is peachy, easy to handle. So that wraps it up for those three main things we needed to talk about: the versatile web server Nginx, understanding what a web server gateway interface is, as well as an example of a powerful web server gateway interface, Gunicorn. Now, on to the mother load. After creating a wonderful website with the static and dynamic content, we need to find somewhere to save it. We got this beautiful car that we bought. We need to park it somewhere. That's where web hosting comes into play. But we can't just go in and host the website like that. We need to still make a decision. So it's not as easy as saying, I'm going to use this web host, that web host. Yeah, there's so many web hosting services out there. But once you choose one, you still have to choose what web hosting option you need. There are four main types. The first is the shared hosting. This is an affordable but limited resource, just like renting a room in a house. Next step is VPS, which is virtual private server. Again, you have more control, but the resources are still shared, just like in the shared hosting, but it's a little bit different. So for VPS hosting, it's like renting a hotel room in a hotel. Now, the next step is a dedicated server hosting, where you have full control of the entire server all the way to the root access. You're not sharing it with anyone. So in this case, it's like renting an entire house to yourself, not like the previous stage where you're renting an apartment in a whole apartment complex, or renting a room in an apartment complex. Now, the fourth option is cloud hosting. We talked about cloud computing a few videos back. Then we've talked about the benefits as well. Obviously, we know there's flexibility, there's scalability, but it can be more complex to manage. So for cloud hosting, think about you're renting an Airbnb. Maybe you wanted a party and you don't want to do the cleanup. You go rent somebody's house to do your party. Maybe you want to rent more facilities. Maybe that party ended up being a blast. You needed to rent it again and again and again. All right. Or maybe you're renting a small room in a house, but then you have visitors or guests who are coming in to spend a week with you after you've rented it out for a month, and you need to expand and so on. So you have that flexibility when you're using cloud hosting. But we need to be able to make some good decisions, both for choosing the web server and also for choosing the web hosting. For the web server, Nginx, again, like I said, is generally faster than Apache, especially for high traffic websites. All web servers do have security features, obviously, and we have additional security when we also implement the web server gateway interface to work with the web server and our application as a bridge. Also, there's that ease of use. It might be easier to configure Apache and the ISS, that is Microsoft's Internet Information Services is always a mouthful for me. Now, it also does really matter on your specific needs. If you have specific requirements, for instance, you just want to serve static content, maybe you don't need to use a bullet to kill an ant, or maybe you need dynamic content, or you need real-time applications, and so on and so forth. So it all depends on those specific needs. But all in all, for best practices, you need to optimize your application, use caching, compression, and other techniques which could be built into the configuration of your Nginx web server. Also, security needs to be top-notch. Protect your security or protect your data and assets against stuff like SQL injections, cross-site scripting, and so on. We did discuss those as well when we talked about cybersecurity. So you need to protect it, both protecting your data at rest, in transit, and in use. Well, not both, all three. Now, monitoring your application is imperative because you need to identify potential issues. The landscape for an attack and vulnerabilities keep changing with time, and we need to always catch up with the evolution. Meanwhile, for web hosting options, we need to think about stuff like the money part, right? Are we concerned about the affordability or the resources being limited or the performance being affected? Do we need to have more control? Are we going to require more technical knowledge? Is that something we can handle? Do we have the expertise to address that? So all of these are things we need to take into consideration to be able to make the right choice, because even though cloud hosting could be more flexible, scalable, and cost-effective, it can also be more complex to manage, except you prefer to use a managed cloud hosting service. Now, I hope we've gotten a better understanding of the roles of Nginx, WSGI, Gunicorn, and also choosing the best web hosting option for our web applications and website. And if so, I encourage you to subscribe to my channel, because we'll be having a simple to complex videos as well of how we can set this up very easily. Also, please do like and share my video. It's going to help the YouTube algorithm. And if there's anything that is not clear, or any shout outs or any questions you might have, feel free to leave a comment. I'm here. I'm very eager to answer your questions, to respond to any comment you have. And I do look forward to catching you on the next video and seeing you around the community. Enjoy.